All right, so I wanted to stand here. I've been listening to a lot of this guy who goes by the pseudonym of Mencius Moldbug. His real name is Curtis Yarvin. He wrote a few things. One of them, the most recent one, being Gray Mirror, or the Nihilist Prince. Some of the older stuff is like they're kind of takes on politics and like I'm not really ways of setting up systems, but more along the lines of showing different systems that could work. He is a monarchist, right? And in this one here, like it's 2 hours long, but I only wanted to respond to about 5 or 10 minutes of it. And only because of the fact that, like, yo, he decided to, say some shit about Appalachians. And there's a big piece that I think this dude is missing. So if anybody knows how to, like, get some shit to him, do me a favor. You know what I'm saying? Legitimately, stand here, send this over to him. This is not going to be me ripping somebody apart. It's not anything along these type of lines. But I do believe that some of the knowledge that we have accrued while we have stood here and researched a lot of different things and went through a lot of shit is kind of important, because like you can't just look at macro, you also have to look at micro. And you can also look at macro and miss a lot of stuff as far as macro things are concerned. So let's get into this video a little bit, and I want to show y'all exactly what he's saying. And I mean, because I think, it's important that we have these type of discussions back and forth, and not just stand here and, I don't know how I put it, not just stand here and like have our echo chambers, right? I think it's important that like we all add to each other, and that way we can all come together as individuals. So let's check this out.
Doing the right thing. It's very hard for me to see our government is operating on anything even remotely resembling that principle. I mean, yeah, they do care about public health, sort of. I mean, a little bit, certainly you see vast amounts of the country where just both the people and the land are just turning into these hideous scars. I mean, like West Virginia, oh my God, it's not just that the people are all on, fentanyl. It's that when they're not on fentanyl, they're basically cashing welfare checks and working in strip malls. And these are not African Americans, by the way. Well, yeah, they're like your chavs, right? They're Appalachian Americans, I don't know if you've read the Theodore Dalrymple book, Life at the Bottom. Reads very well in the U.S. here because it completely factors race out of degeneracy. It's in fact perfectly possible to, turn white people into complete degenerates. It may be a little bit harder, but it's certainly quite achievable. You can probably even do it with Asians if you try hard enough, the Asians in our sense of the word, not yours. That's just like, that's mismanagement on a spectacular scale. And so when you're looking at these people who are like, chavs or hood rats or whatever, it's like basically, how do you turn these people into the people that they should be? Right. And, that's a completely different, how do you basically take someone who's a chav in a council house, in Britain and say, no, we're going to turn you into something Wordsworth would actually admire. Right. And that's what that person needs. It's
Okay, so let's get down to this. I mean, because like the first thing you have to do before you stand here and talk about, and I've listened to this the whole way through, right? Because I like to make sure that he hadn't made this point, right? The first thing you have to understand is, number one, single motherhood. And single motherhood is not a problem of just feminism, right? It's a problem of incentive base. And all that disappears the moment that welfare disappears. Like the reason you have all these dudes out here, in particular, like Appalachians or, people in Connecticut or Massachusetts, wherever the case might be, who are running around, fucking cashing welfare checks and, hanging out or working at strip malls, is because of the fact that you have taken away their purpose in life. When you hand out $52,000 a year, all right, in benefits, and what you're doing is you're pricing the average individual out of a relationship, right? That's kind of what you're doing. When you'll give a single mom with a couple of kids $52,000 a year, and that seems like a high number. It does. But it completely works out with the math when you start talking about housing, health insurance, a car allotment, having like, electric bills paid, like all these things. When you start adding up all these programs that they get on, like, like my baby's mom's, like she gets like $800 a month in food stamps, right? Which is fucking ridiculous for any human being to get $800 a month. But this isn't not just one person. Like, these are a lot of people, right? I know a ton of people who receive this much money in food stamps, right? And then you start talking about Social Security benefits for the kids and SSI and all these things. And when you get down to that point and you go, all right, well, you are pricing individuals out of a relationship because you're making a man disposable. And then what you're doing is you're taking away his jobs and you're taking away his ability to provide for his family. And then on top of that, what you're doing is you're going, okay, well, now he has to go work at, some nonsense place, whatever the case might be, right? And he's coming from a broken home. So, he's broken emotionally and mentally and all these type of things. And he has to stand here and grind out the best way that he knows how. And you're not allowing him the opportunity to do what his forefathers did before him. And this is where we start talking about the micro part of things, right? And I said this about Detroit too, and Chicago and all these other places. The biggest impediment to these individuals becoming the people who they are supposed to be is not their IQ because they're black or, some politician doing bullshit. No, what it is stupid little laws, right? It's zoning laws. It's food inspection laws. It's business licenses. It's building permits. It's all these things that we put in when we became rich, when we became a rich society. And we never took away, even though the wealth stopped. Like, the reason we were able to build the wealth that we had. All right, let me put it like this. In World War II, there was two things that won United States the war. All right. And one of them was our ability to manufacture massive quantities of things. There was some German general, I forget who it was. I think it was, I might have been von Clausewitz. I forget who the hell it is. But or Goebbels, it might have been. I don't know. They said one German Tiger is worth 4. You know what I'm saying? American, whatever the hell we had, right? Or one German Panzer was worth 4 American Tigers, right? But the problem is there was always 5 of them. And then the second one is that Americans had the ability to work on every machine in the battlefield because they grew up working on their own stuff and fixing their own stuff. They grew up in an environment where you had to make do because there was no one helping you and you had to eat. You came off of a farm or you came out of the woods in the mountains, right? You came from a place where, you learned how to wrench on stuff. You learned how to fix things because, when it broke down in the middle of the road, there was nobody to help you. We had no public transportation. There was no trains. There was no trolleys, anything of this nature, right? There's trains like distance-wise and for freight, but not for people, right? And there are no buses, things like this, right? So when these American citizens, went to war in World War II, one of the biggest factors was the fact that they could get out and work on these machines. And that's the reason why we had such an amazing workforce, is because we had people who came in who were already qualified, to work on machines. Everybody was what we would call today an engineer, right? Everybody understood how machinery worked. And we've taken that away from people. Like, we really, really have. We have robbed our people of being able to have that type of abilities. Because not only did we stand here and make it difficult to learn these skills, but we also made it very difficult to stand here and be able to, I'm trying to think exactly how to put this, to be able to stand here and pull yourself up by your bootstraps the way, somebody 50 or 60 years ago would have. When people built onto their houses in the suburbs, or into a house in the country, and they just attached new rooms. They went outside, laid down a couple of bricks, stood here and put some, maybe had some concrete, maybe put a pad, probably didn't, right? They stood here, they extended their house out to make room for their kids. And they stood there and ran the wires themselves, and they didn't pull any permits. And what we did was we said, well, that's unsafe. Well, yeah, but now it's safe, but it's impossible for normal people to be able to expect to be able to get into things. And this is the part where we're missing, right? This is the part where we're missing, because those Appalachian Americans, they're all strung out on the heroin and all fucked up. It's because a lot of it has to do with individuals have hit the point of where they've hit that wall and went, I don't know what to do. They're like, I don't know what to do anymore. Like, you've taken away all my options. And then you saddle them on top of that with the emotional burdens of being raised by a fucking single mother. And on top of that, you stood here and you've taken away their fucking jobs. And when you add all this up, you're like, all right, well, what's it going to take for them to be able to do shit? You got to leave them alone. This is where that libertarian mentality comes in. He talked about earlier he wasn't a libertarian. I understand this, but you have to be a libertarian in the mentality that you cannot have a city that's dying and continuing to try and enforce and live and have the size of government that you had, and trying to feed all those fucking government workers off of a dying city. Because at that point, the parasite is going to eat the fucking host. And that's really where the problem comes down to. You want to look it up, look up the Bronze Age collapse. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is exactly what happened. Just too many people eating off that wheat that kept having diminishing returns. This is, something that I legitimately think that a lot of people are missing. Because, like, we have this ideology of normalcy, right? And we have this ideology of we should all live in this manner. But the truth of the matter is, if tomorrow you woke up and the largest employers in your area were fucking gone, right? And there was nowhere for you to go to get another job, right? And they started handing out welfare to your females, and all of a sudden, like, you end up as a single dude, fucked up, having to be on child support, running from the fucking law, right? Losing everything around you. You lost your job, your family, you lost everything. Fucking, like, you're fucked up in the game, and they're not helping you. You'd probably act some sort of kind of way. And what you would want to do is like, yo, like, good man, I'll tell you what, if y'all let me just go live in the woods, I'll go build me a little fucking shelter, and I'll try to figure a way to fuck back into normal society. And they go, no, you can't do that. That's illegal. Like, you're like, fuck, man. The fuck you want me to do? Be homeless and live in a shelter? Basically. And that's where we are. And that's the problem of shit. You know what I'm saying? And, this is what he's really breaking down in this new book, apparently, is, it's a Machiavellian type of book for the modern age. And, like, for that, I'm appreciative, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm a huge Machiavelli fan. Everybody knows that about me. You know what I mean? Like, I think, like, he was one of our greatest thinkers, and he gets severely underrepresented in shit. Legit, like, fucking telling the truth is a goddamn crime. Like, it really is. But, all right, let's keep banging on with this video a little bit, see how much more we can get into it.
It's definitely not what he wants. It's definitely not what he's asking for. Doesn't involve satisfying his desires. We know it satisfies his desires. It's more, tracksuits and hashish and, PlayStation, and porn. but there's just such a huge gap there that you could kind of take an economy or a society that was like Britain in the 18th century, and you could say we're going to run this on the basis of pure satisfaction of desire and sort of pure greed. And in a way, this is what a lot of the kind of early Ruskinite, sort of socialists are reacting against. The Pre-Raphaelites, the Ruskinites, these people all come out of Carlisle, and they're just reacting to this kind of horror of modernity. You sort of disagree with like the power of capitalism to actually work and get things done. It's sort of a tremendous force, but kind of, Carlyle could already see that this night watchman state would, basically grow a lot of weeds. And it certainly grew a lot of weeds. And, if you were talking about a sort of purely libertarian kind of, like an abstract state, yeah, it has no use for these people. It can't kill them. It shouldn't kill them. And so basically the question of how you turn your tracksuited chav back into a human being is just the most important question of our time. And that's a question that's being completely ignored. Not only is it being completely ignored, it's completely incompatible with our vision of the purpose of government.
All right. So the mentality is this, right? And this is the problem with government as a whole. Legitimately. Number one, it's not the government's responsibility to take care of these people. All right. It's not even the government's responsibility, and I'm saying to look after these individuals. What it is the government's job to do is not make shit worse. Like, right now the government serves women. That's what it does. And that's why we are where the fuck we are right now. Legit. It's that goddamn simple. Why do you think we're not addressing these questions? Why do you think we're not having these thoughts? Because they're about men. And women don't care about men. They don't care about their country. They care about what's good for them at that fucking moment. So, and they vote that way. And they vote for people who are gonna stand there and give them that type of shit. This is why, legitimately, we're on this level. This is why we're here right now. Because women don't fucking care. Like, they don't give a shit. Like, they don't fucking give a fuck, and they're the number one voting base. Like, you want to talk about the failure of democracy? Like, because Rome was a democracy. When it really, Rome was a republic, you know what I'm saying? But, Rome had voting, right? People voted in Rome. Machiavelli said it. You got to have 3 forms of government. He said it. I fucking broke it down on my channel. You have to have 3 fucking forms of government. Legit. He said you got to have the aristocracy. You got to have, the emperor, aristocracy, you know what I'm saying? And the people, and the fucking Congress represent the people. You have to have that. You have to have the nobles and shit. That type of thing. Right? You had to have a representation of basically business. Somebody from, the administration, which would have been, the individuals representing God or the state, right? And then you had individuals representing, or people representing the individuals in the country, the actual people who voted, right? And, you had to go through the Senate, and you had to go through the nobles, and you had to go through the emperor. That's how this worked. Jesus Christ. And, this is the problem. It's that people don't understand, you can't let women vote. That's the secret. That's the problem with democracy. Dudes can vote. And, he gets into some shit about, fucking taxes and stuff. I don't know if it was before this or after this. I forget. Right? And he said, this is something else I have an issue with. I think land taxes are fucking stupid, me personally. I think they're the dumbest thing ever. And I think they incentivize, again, you get back to this bullshit, I think they incentivize a lot of this, fucking keeping people's property values up bullshit. Legit. I don't think that the government should have any type of incentive to stand here and raise your fucking taxes. I don't think if You have people in the neighborhood who want to have, fucking 12 cars in their lawn because that's how they make money and it's their fucking property. They should have every right to do it without the goddamn government or their fucking neighbors saying a fucking word about it. Because that's how the fuck it is they feed themselves. I don't care if somebody wants to fucking plant corn in their front and backyard so that they can stand here and have fucking popcorn. That's their fucking land. That's your fucking right. Right? And you shouldn't have individuals out here taxing this fucking land because you know what? At some point in your life, you're not going to be able to work any fucking more. And heaven forbid you don't save enough. And especially when you're going to have an expanding currency if you have an expanding, population. Like, it just is what it is. In order to continue to have an expanding fucking economic system. Like, because that's how fucking shit operates. If you're not in growth, you're in decline. One of the two. Like, I'd love to be able to hit a point where we can have just as many people, and then, like, we have a certain amount of people, and then we're done. Like, fuck the garbage. Like, all right, we're going to stay right around this fucking level. That would be fucking nice, but we're not fucking there. Well, we are there, but the government keeps bringing in more fucking people through goddamn immigration and shit. Which, again, is fucking dumb. Like, you can't keep bringing in fucking poor people to fuck over the poor people who can't fucking get by now. This is the goddamn problem. You wouldn't have a fucking heroin epidemic if... legit, they still had decent fucking jobs for these individuals where they could stand here and earn a decent living and have a fucking chance at having a goddamn home and a fucking family where they could outspend the fucking government. Real shit. It's a fucking math question. It's about economics when it really comes down to it. And that's kind of what we do over here. But anyway, look, man. It's going to be about 20 minutes on, so I'm going to shut this bitch down. Y'all know the deal. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit that motherfucking notification bell. I'm Tom P's Pnoid News. You know the fucking drill. Peace be like one. Later.